We previously learned that your red blood cells have tiny antigens attached to them, and it is these antigens that determine your blood type. For example, if your red blood cells have A antigens, then you will have type A blood. If your red blood cells have B antigens, you will have type B blood. If your red blood cells have both A and B antigens, then your blood type is said to be AB. And if your red blood cells contain no antigens, then you have type O blood. But A and B antigens are not the only antigens found on your red blood cells. You also have an antigen called Rh factor. In this lesson, we will take a look at the Rh factor and the significant role it can play during pregnancy. The Rh factor is simply a red blood cell antigen, just like the A antigen and the B antigen that are used to determine your blood type. The Rh factor is named after the rhesus monkey, which is the animal where it was first identified. Now, the Rh factor is important when we learn about the Rh blood group system. The Rh blood group system is a classification system for blood that depends on the presence or absence of the Rh antigen or factor on your red blood cells. In other words, you were either born with the Rh factor on your red blood cells, like most people, or you were born without them, which is more rare but significant as we will learn in this lesson. Now, since the Rh factor can be either present or absent, we refer to people as being either Rh positive if they have the Rh factor, or Rh negative if they do not. Now, we previously learned that in the ABO blood group system that antibodies are automatically produced based on antigens not present on your red blood cells. So you might think that the Rh blood group would be the same way, and assume that if you're born without the Rh antigen, that your body would automatically make antibodies against it. However, in the Rh blood group system, the antibodies are not automatically produced. Instead, a person with Rh negative blood needs to be sensitized before he or she will start to produce antibodies to the Rh antigen. Let's look at an example. If you have a woman with Rh negative blood who has never had a blood transfusion or any other exposure to anyone else's blood, she will not have any antibodies against the Rh antigen. It's almost like her body doesn't even care which Rh blood group she belongs to. However, if this woman gets a bad blood transfusion that contains Rh positive blood, her body will now be primed or sensitized to the Rh positive antigen and start to produce anti-Rh positive antibodies. Because this was the first exposure, there's no real harm done, other than the fact that now she has antibodies floating around in her bloodstream. The only significant point is that because the antibodies are now in her bloodstream, she can never again come in contact with Rh positive blood, or her antibodies will attack. It's almost like she gets a free pass for her first exposure to the wrong blood type when you talk about Rh factor. However, this first exposure sets you up for problems if you ever get the wrong blood again. Now let's consider a different woman, and let's say that she is a pregnant Rh negative woman who is carrying an Rh positive child. During pregnancy, and especially during delivery, there's a good chance that the child's Rh positive blood can pass through the placenta and into the mother's bloodstream, somewhat like the blood transfusion we talked about earlier. So what's going to happen to that first child? Well, the answer is nothing. In fact, the first pregnancy for an Rh negative mom and an Rh positive child typically results in a healthy baby. But the mother is now sensitized by Rh positive antigens that have passed through the placenta and into her bloodstream, and that means she will start to form anti-Rh positive antibodies. This will be a problem if she ever becomes pregnant again with an Rh positive child because her antibodies will reject the child. So modern medical science came up with a solution, and that solution is to treat the mother with RhoGAM soon after giving birth to her first child. Now, RhoGAM is an injection given to a woman who is Rh negative to prevent the formation of antibodies. That's right, RhoGAM stops antibodies from forming in the mother, and this makes it possible for her to have more children. Now, of course, if the Rh negative mom is not treated and becomes pregnant again with an Rh positive child, her antibodies would destroy the child's red blood cells, resulting in a condition called erythroblastosis fetalis, also known as hemolytic disease of the newborn. Now, this condition is a potentially life-threatening blood disorder in a newborn infant that develops when the mother and the baby have different Rh blood types. To help recall this term, you can remember that urethro means red, and erythroblasts are immature red blood cells. Combine that with the suffix osis, which refers to disease, and the term fetalis, which refers to fetus or newborn, and we get the term erythroblastosis fetalis, which literally means a disease of the immature red blood cells in a newborn. Let's review. The Rh blood group system is a classification system for blood that depends on the presence or absence of the Rh antigen or factor on red blood cells. If you have the Rh antigen, your blood is Rh positive. If the antigen is absent, your blood is Rh negative. This is important when we look at a pregnant Rh negative woman who is carrying an Rh positive child. The first such pregnancy is usually fine and results in a healthy child. However, the mother has become sensitized by Rh positive antigens from that first child. Unless the mother is treated with RhoGAM shortly after giving birth, she will begin to form anti-Rh positive antibodies. RhoGAM is an injection given to women who are Rh negative to prevent the formation of antibodies. If she is not treated and becomes pregnant again with an Rh positive child, her child could develop erythroblastosis fetalis, also known as hemolytic disease of the newborn. This condition is a potentially life-threatening blood disorder in a newborn infant that develops when the mother and baby have different Rh blood types.